E3 2018 is wrapping up, and this year's conference gave us a whole lot to think about. From a closer look at some of the most highly anticipated titles in recent years to some moments that made people lose their minds. So here's the top 10 best moments of E3 2018. And at number 10, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Nintendo has never one to disappoint at E3. Hell, they've been bringing their A-game to the expo ever since it started back in 1995. And this year, they spent over half their conference outlining the latest game in the Super Smash Bros. Series, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Nintendo is known for being meticulous and taking its time when it comes to releasing new games, and Ultimate is the prime example of this. The gaming giant outlined a handful of the thousand-something changes they've stated that they've made to the characters, stages, assist trophies, final smashes, techniques, cosmetics, and more. And to boot, every single character that has ever been in a Smash Bros. Game will now be playable in Ultimate, including ones that appeared in DLCs. And at number 9, Death Stranding is still confusing. If that wasn't already self-explanatory enough, just take a look at the new trailer and gameplay footage of Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding that was released at Sony's press conference. In what many people have jokingly called a walking simulator, we get to see Norman Reedus' blue-collar hero cross empty expanses, depicting his job as a delivery man of sorts. We also got to see more of the invisible creature, and were introduced to Léa Seydoux's character, who raised a ton of more questions about not only the game's narrative, but the world that it takes place in. Of course, no release date was mentioned. Up next, number 8, the PC Gaming Show didn't suck this year. Okay, that might be a little harsh, but it's true. The PC Gaming Show has a bit of a reputation for being too long and too cringy, and while this year they still ran for a significant amount of time, they managed to up their charm and lose the awkward moments, or at least kept the awkward to a minimum. One moment in particular really stood out. At the beginning of the presentation for 2 Point Hospital, the spiritual successor to Theme Hospital, one of the devs' mics went out, and we were privy to the sheer panic that the crew backstage went through. But host Sean Plott took it in stride, and it actually made for a pretty funny moment.
Hospital. Whoa, what's going on with the mic? What's going on with the mic?
Speaking of cringe, and at number 7, the Rage 2 cringe. It wouldn't be E3 without a solid dose of cringe, would it? Oddly enough, rather than it being Ubisoft who brought the cringe, the publisher is notorious for having some pretty cringe moments in past conferences, it was Bethesda who made us all look away from our screens in discomfort. While their conference was one of the standouts this year, more on that later though, it started off really rocky, opening with Rage 2. The game itself surprised many with how great it looks, but its introduction was a bit of a mess. From an unenthusiastic crowd enduring an unnecessary performance courtesy of Andrew WK to bad jokes from Tim Willits, Bethesda floundered quite a bit for the first several minutes of their showcase, but we just couldn't take our eyes off of it. Up next, number 6, Bethesda's new IP. Speaking of Bethesda, let's take a look at the flip side of their conference, the announcement of the company's first new IP in 10 years, titled Starfield. And aside from a trailer set in space, we know jack shit about it. But according to Todd Howard, the new sci-fi RPG franchise will be designed for next-generation consoles, and won't be released until around 2020, at the earliest. And at number 5, Microsoft is stepping up. Microsoft knows that it's got some steep competition, so this year they made a point of showing that they're working really hard to win back gamers and get them onto their Xbox consoles. Not only did they have the most jam-packed conference of the expo, they showed off 50 titles, 18 exclusives, and 15 world premieres, which began with the Halo Infinite announcement. They also announced that Microsoft Originals has acquired 5 awesome indie studios, meaning we'll surely get a lot more well-crafted exclusives for the Xbox in the near future. Up next, number 4, the Devil May Cry 5 announcement. Fans have been waiting a decade for the new Devil May Cry game, one that wasn't a subpar reboot that is, and at Microsoft's press conference this year that wish came true. Announced as a sequel to DMC4, fans in the audience went absolutely nuts when the trailer came up on the big screen, which included a brand new look for Nero, along with some much needed Dante at the end of the trailer. Hideki Itsuno, the director behind DMC 3 and 4, took the stage, and his enthusiasm was contagious, and also quite adorable. He promised that this will be the best Devil May Cry yet. And at number 3, Cyberpunk 2077. Right when we all thought the Microsoft conference had come to an end, the screens, and the stream, appeared to have a bit of a meltdown. This segued into the trailer for one of the most highly anticipated games of the last few years, CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077. The trailer, which gave us a whole lot to digest, also gave us a much needed glimpse of the colorful and vibrant world of the game, and needless to say, it looks very promising. News about what the game will entail has been making the rounds online too. Some critics were given access to a demo behind closed doors at E3, but none of that demo has been made public yet. Moving on to number 2, Sony's press conference. Sony did a really cool thing this year at their press conference. They started it off in a very non-traditional venue, in a church tent with lights strung up above their audience. Everyone was kinda wondering why, but then this all made perfect sense the second that their first trailer began, the one for The Last of Us Part 2, which was set in an almost identical setting. Talk about good showmanship and storytelling. It really paid off too, considering the trailer and the gameplay footage showcase was considered to be one of the top highlights of the entire expo. Not only because it was for their console's most highly anticipated title, but also because it was really good. From that tender kiss to Ellie's brutal kills, it had pretty much everything that fans have been dying to see from the series, minus Joel. But we are sure we'll be getting getting more of him sometime in the near future. Finally, in at number 1, all of Todd Howard's Bethesda appearance. Todd Howard is one of the video game industry's most charismatic figures. Although he made a brief appearance at the Microsoft conference hours prior to Bethesda's to show off a new Fallout 76 trailer, it was his rollout of both Fallout 76 and some exciting new Elder Scrolls updates that was really his conference highlight. For starters, he dived into what we can expect from Fallout 76, the super ambitious but seemingly awesome online game that will be released November 14th of this year. It boasts a whole lot of new features, caters to both solo and multiplayer, although it seems optimized for the latter, and is 4 times the size of Fallout 4, featuring 6 distinct regions set in the hills of West Virginia, only 20 years after the war ended, meaning it's a pretty untamed wasteland that you'll be entering. If that didn't drive people wild, the announcement concerning Elder Scrolls that followed it did. Skyrim is getting a follow-up game, in the form of Elder Scrolls 6. Howard only revealed a brief teaser trailer that featured a rolling skyline along with the title Elder Scrolls 6, but it was enough to have fans go nuts. A release date wasn't announced for that one either, but Howard did tease after the conference that he knows the date, although he ain't telling anybody publicly anytime soon. Alright, there we have it, friends. What were your picks for the best moments of E3? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know. If you dug this video, please hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Gaming for all your highlights, news, lists, and updates on all things video games. Thanks for watching, everybody.